Hi everyone, it's Evelyn. A couple of videos ago we talked about the experiments I did this year in new to me cut flowers, and this video we're going to talk about the experiments I'm going to do in 2026, which is next year, for new flowers to me, and why I'm choosing them and what they are. So let's just get straight into the video. So the first one is one that was recommended to me by one of you guys a long time ago. I can't remember what video, but I found it, so I'm going to try it. And it is the Camassia Blue Medley. I'm getting it from Brex Canada, and I'm getting 10 bulbs for $12.99. Now, the reason I really want to try this one is because when I was researching it to see if it was one that I wanted, this is what came up. I'm going to read off my computer. Camassia, often called camas or blue camas, is a native plant on Vancouver Island, BC, which is where I live. Campbell River is on Vancouver Island. Recognized by its grass-like leaves and vibrant blue-purple flowers that bloom from March to May. That's one of the main reasons I want to grow it, because I'm looking for flowers that bloom in that early time period where I have very little that blooms. It is a culturally significant plant to the indigenous people and a keystone species in the endangered Jerry Oak ecosystem, particularly in the southern part of the island, which is where Victoria is, if you've heard of Victoria. Camas thrive in moist to average meadows and is found on rocky slopes and in clearings. Now we have, my back cut flower beds, especially up against the back fence, is very moist in the winter, so it sounds like it will be a perfect one to grow in that area. I am going to, now I have to be very careful because I'm such a tiny urban flower farm. I'm maxed out on space, more or less. So when one thing comes in, something else must go out. Now I already know and have mentioned previously that I have too many astilbes growing. It's just astilbes I have brought with me over the decades, and they have multiplied, and I have too many clumps of them than for what I need. So I will replace at least 3 of my astilbes with the Camassia Blue Medley. So that leaves me with another 7 bulbs, which I will have to find a place for, but I'm sure I will. I think over in our front garden beds, next to the battery box where I have the snowberry branches growing, because I want to dig them up and pot them up, I might try them there. And I should be able to get maybe the additional 7 in that space. So that's my hope, that's my idea. But anyway, so that's the first one that I want to try, and it's coming from, as I said, Brex Canada. Now, while I was on the Brex Canada site, I decided to also get Sicilian honey garlic, which is also called honey Sicilian lily or honey lily, or I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so I'm getting 6 bulbs for $10.99. And that is because it was also recommended to me because I do like sort of funky flowers, or fugly, which is fun ugly, to add to bouquets for just that little bit of extra whimsy. It was suggested to me to try this one, and it's only 6 bulbs, so that'll be easy to fit into a spot. That's not going to take up very much room at all. Allium bulbs are basically you plant 3 inches apart at the most, depending on the size of the bulb. So 6 bulbs is not... That's a 1 foot stretch by, 3 inches. So very little space for that. I can probably get those bulbs around one of my peony plants, and they will be completely out of the way for that. So I'm really looking forward to having that as well and testing that out. Those are the only 2 things I'm getting from Brex Canada. Now the other thing that I'm getting was a spontaneous buy. So I went to Canadian Tire to buy something, and while I was there, I have a coupon in my purse that I've had all summer, because back in the spring I bought some pansies, etc., to put in some little flower containers. And when you buy $100 worth of flowers, of which I did back in the spring, you get a $10 off coupon. It's one of those things where every time you spend 10 bucks they punch it. And I never used it all summer. And I know it's coming to the end of the season for the Canadian Tire Garden Center, so I thought I'd take a quick whip through there and see if there was anything I could find. Well, when I went in there, I was really shocked. I never knew they did this. They were having 70% off a lot of things that they want to clear out because they don't run the garden center over the winter, at least not my location. Other locations do, but not my location. So I thought, oh, 70% off, plus I get $10 off when I get to the till. So I took a look through what they had, and I was being very, very slow and very, very conscientious about how I could get the best bang for my buck, because it's not that I really needed anything. And I came across their 9 barks. And this is how big they are. They're pretty big. So you can see, hold it sideways, there's the top. It's huge. They're in 1-gallon pots. And because it was 70% off, they were each selling for $4. $4? No, sorry, they were each selling for, let me think about this, $7. So at the till, they would have been about $14, but then I had a $10 coupon. So basically, I bought 2 9 barks, which will go up on my deck. I bought 2 9 barks this size for $4. I can't believe that. Look at this one. This one's kind of cool. It's got a leaf that's reverted to green with just a little bit of the deep maroon in there. But I thought, since I don't really want to go and pick cherry branches off of my friend's property in the spring if I don't have to, because I just don't really want to travel to go cut stuff when I need it every morning. And the cherry branches with the deep maroon colored leaves pair so well with my camellia flowers. I thought, since these leaves apparently come up quite early in the season, they might be a good substitute for the cherry branches. Now, they're not going to have the pink flowers. If I leave them long enough, I will get flowers off of them. I forget what they look like. Oh, they're white, so that's what the flowers look like. Oops. There. But if you cut the branch, it won't get flowers on it the next year. So basically, you're buying this for the foliage and not the flowers, because once you cut the flowers, you won't have flowers on that stem for the following year. So I've got 2 of these pots, and on here, there's this 1-gallon pot. There's already 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 stems that I could have cut for bouquets. So the other pot, presumably the same. So in theory, I had 8 stems to use out of the 1-gallon pot for bouquets. So that should really multiply per year. I'm going to pot these up into 2-gallon pots instead of the 1 gallon that they're in. And like I said, have them up on the deck, so they're not going to be in the way of the flower beds in the garden below. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that was a really, really good idea to buy these. And yeah, I can already start to see, can you see that there? I'm going to put my hand in front of that. All these stems have 2 little tiny side shoots coming out of them, every single one. So there's going to be a whole lot more branches coming off of this next year. That was a totally spur of the moment buy, but it was a very considered buy, and I'm really happy with that one. So that was not ordered, that was bought locally, and each one of those 1-gallon pots of this 9 bark, quite a big plant, only cost me $2. But again, that's because I had the coupon, as well as they were 70% off. So really looking forward to seeing if I can use these in the spring. So then I haven't placed my order with Johnny's yet. I'm going to be placing it probably before you see this on Saturday. It's Monday. Because I knew I was going to be filming this particular video today, on the weekend, I really narrowed down what it was I wanted to order from Johnny's. I know I need to keep it below $100 because of tariffs, because I don't want to pay tariffs. So I had to really, really be considered about what it was that I was going to order from Johnny. Some of the things I already knew, but I had several things that I wanted to trial out, maybe that I was going to throw in with the order, whether I trialed them out this year or the next year, just to save on shipping. But I've nixed a lot of them just because of the tariff situation. If when I get the order all together and I feel like I can still add something in to get up to below that 100, I still might. But what I'm going to tell you about is what I am absolutely specifically ordering that's new, that's going to be new to me for 2026. And the first one is the Campanula Champion Rose. And I'm going to order that because, again, it's an earlier blooming flower. Then it's in a time period where I don't have a lot. I know Campanula the native Campanula does really, really well in our area. So I'm hoping Campanula Champion Rose would do well too. It's also a hybrid So it's not a biennial. It doesn't flower on its second year. It flowers on its first year, which is one of the reasons why I'm trialing this one. Because if I put the seeds in, I want it to be, I don't want to have to put the seeds in the fall. We're on a migratory path, so there are times in the fall where you look out the window and the whole property is covered in birds, because we are literally on a stopover migratory path. And you put seeds out in the fall, and a lot of them get cleaned out by the birds. So that would not be good. It's fine for things like foxgloves and feverfew, which put out, hello Leela, which put out thousands of seeds. But when you're buying a package of seed from a seed company, you're not putting out thousands of seeds. So the chances of getting a return on your investment for a few, even if it's just a few hundred, is really, really low. I mean, when you think about poppies, how many seeds they put out when they self-seed in an area, and compare it, let's say on my property, and compare it to the amount of poppies that you actually have growing from those poppies that self-seeded, it's like minuscule. Anyway, so that's why I want to try the Campanula Champion Rose, because it will bloom the year that you put the seeds out. So then, if you've been following me along, you know that I tried Snapdragon Chantilly Bronze, of which I brought one in, which is this one, this year. And I fell in love with it. It was the first one of the Chantilly Chantilly series that I trialed. And it was better than anticipated, because it's got the white backs to the little flutes, and it's got the white centers with, there's not actually any yellow in the center. There's maybe just a tinge. But yeah, so Chantilly Bronze I fell in love with, and I had decided to drop a couple of my Snapdragons and trial out more of the Chantilly series. So the ones I'm going to trial out is going to be Chantilly Light Pink. And the reason I'm choosing the Chantilly Light Pink is because I'm dropping Legend Light Pink and Costa Silver, which are both in the pinks. So I want to replace them with another pink. So that's why Chantilly Light Pink is going to be one of the Chantillies that I'm trialing. The other Chantilly that I'm going to trial is Chantilly Purple. And the reason I'm going to trial that is because this year I trialed for the first time Cosmo Double Click Cranberry, which, if I have I'll just put a little picture up here on the side. If you look at the Chantilly Purple in the photograph, at least, it's the same color. And these are blooming now, obviously. I'm holding it in my hand. And I have fallen in love with using Cosmos Cranberry in my bouquets. So since I love using this color in my bouquets, pretty sure I'm going to love the Chantilly Purple in my bouquets as well. So that's why I'm going to trial out the Chantilly Purple. So for now, those are the only things I'm going to order from Johnny's. Later on in the video, towards the end, I'll go over some of the ones that I nixed, that I might add one back in, depending on what the price adds up to. So then I'm ordering from T&T Seeds, which is a Canadian company. I think it's out of Alberta. And I ordered from them because they are the only place I can find that carry the tomatoes that I really love, which are called Health Kick tomatoes. They're a Rona type tomato, but they're far better tasting than it, and they are very, very productive. So I will always grow that as my tomato. I normally have grown Sun Gold tomatoes for the cherry tomato. This year I grew Sweetie because I had a package of 25-year-old seeds and I wanted to test them out. They, of course, tasted great. They did really well. I'm harvesting Sweetie cherry tomatoes like crazy, considering the seeds are 25 years old. But now I'm out of cherry tomato seeds as well. So I'm going to try Sun Sugar. Now, the reason I'm going to try Sun Sugar is because when I used to do the farmer's market a few years back, the fellow that was beside me, who had an organic food farm, he certified organic, he swore by these. He said they're a lot like Sun Gold, but sweeter. So he swore by the Sun Sugars, and he always sold out of them. So T&T Seeds carries the Sun Sugar cherry tomatoes as well. So I am going to order those along with my Health Kick. those aren't flowers, but it's a new tomato for me, so that's good. So then we're going to move on to Van Noort, which is my wholesaler. So, and this order has been placed and in theory should be arriving, where are we now? We're at the end of September. Well, not for a few weeks, because the orders don't usually come until mid-October, and I don't usually start planting my spring flower bulbs until November. So, and then of course I sell them at my flower wagon, and I'll put a picture up here for that. So the first thing that I'm going to order is Hyacinths Jan Boa. And the reason I'm going to order that one is I've done really well with pink pearl hyacinths this year, and I will always carry that one because of how well it did. I had more of those bulbs than I had anticipated because they gave me a second set of the wholesale order of those bulbs instead of one of the other ones that I had ordered. So I still have those, but now I can do a comparison with Hyacinths Jan Bow, which if I put them side by side, you can see it's a darker pink. So that'll be an interesting comparison. Will people buy one of each? Will they only buy one or the other? And if so, which will sell more? And do they bloom at the same time? Because I did discover this year that the yellow hyacinths bloomed much later than the pink pearl. So then I'm also ordered Hyacinths Delft Blue, which is a light blue, which I think goes really well with the two pinks. So people can choose a blue one if they don't like pink. Just realize that's sort of like the baby pink and baby blue colors. Never noticed that before until I just put them up on the screen here now, well, on my computer. Yeah, so the Jan Bow, which is the deeper pink, fuchsia, and the Delft Blue, which is the lighter blue, are going to be the two new hyacinths that I'm going to trial for this year. Looking forward to those. Oh, yeah, and then I snuck this in here because it has nothing to do with cut flowers, but I thought it was really, really cool. And I took this picture just a few blocks from where I live. Sorry about the raindrops on my windshield. I had to pull over to take the picture because we're not allowed to touch our phones in the car. We can get fines for that. But I pulled over and took this picture just a few blocks away from where I lived. Anyway, I thought that picture was kind of fun because yes, we do have bears in our city. We also have cougar that come through our city, as well as deer and all sorts of other smaller wildlife. But the next thing I'm going to trial is a bunch of different muscaris because, as you know, I absolutely fell in love with my muscari grape ice this year. And for that reason, I want to trial a bunch of different muscari. And I am going to trial out the muscari Mount Hood, which is the same appearance, except it's blue instead of purple. I'm going to trial out Muscari Pink Sunrise. Oh my goodness, I love that one. It's a lot more expensive than the others. So the Muscari Pink Sunrise is 100 bulbs for $94. That's expensive. That's almost $1 a bulb, and those are little tiny bulbs. Versus the Mount Hood, which is $22 for 100. Oh, I missed this one. The Latifolium, which is the purple with the blue top, that's $11 for 100. And the grape ice was $40 for 100. So they're all quite a bit cheaper, with the blue one the purple one with the blue tops being the cheapest at $11, and the Pink Sunrise being the most expensive for $94 for 100. That's expensive. So those are another trial for me for this next spring for 2026. Now you might say, well, they're really little. How are you going to be selling those at the flower wagon? Well, I have a whole pile of really little vases. So while I have bulbs and things for sale, or even after that, even if I do have bouquets, I have little vases that I can put the muscaris into and sell them that way. And I like having little vases with little tiny, I have, not this year, but in past years I've done it with crocuses, and they sold quite well. And mainly people are buying the vases, but they're also then getting they're starting off with some flowers in them that they can then cut their own crocuses or whatever and put in there afterwards. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to all the muscaris. Fell in love with them. I'm also going to plant them up a lot for around, if you've seen any of my videos in the front garden, when you come in our street-facing gate, there's a landing that then has 3 steps down into the garden. It's quite a large landing, and around the edge of it, except for where the secondary gate is, I have planters, and I want to have a lot of muscari blooming in there just for visual interest, because the actual flower beds won't have much happening in them other than the hyacinths, daffodils, and tulips that will be blooming in their 1-gallon pot. So that'll just give it a little bit of added extra candy for people to look at if they pull over to the flower wagon. So then for tulips, I said in my last video or the video before that they didn't have Pretty Princess available this year, and I was completely wrong. They did have it in the catalog, and I did order it, and it is a beautiful tulip. So Pretty Princess is one that I had this year and I loved, so I ordered it again. So it's not going to be new to me, but the other two tulips, and it's the early one tulip. So the mid tulip and the late tulip, you guys helped me decide which ones it was that I was going to order. So I'm going to order the Darwin Tulip Apricot Pride for the mid tulip, and I'm going to order the Darwin Tulip Blue Amiable for the late tulip. And the reason I like to grow Darwin type tulips to sell at my flower wagon is because, again, I'm selling them in 1-gallon pots, basically the same size as the 9-bark came in, which means I'll be using this pot, not necessarily this year. And let's get that out of my, so it won't be in my face. Hang on. That is totally in my face. Hang on. Spin that around. Spin that around so you can see it, but it's not in my face. There we go. And because I sell it in 1-gallon pots, 3 bulbs in a pot, I want to grow tulips that can easily perennialize, and Darwin tulips perennialize, at least in the area that I live in, no problem, because we get enough cold hours in our soil. We don't freeze a lot. We get very few freezing nights where it would freeze down to the depth of the tulip bulb. I mean, we might get like a little surface freezing, a crust. And we don't get much snow. We get snow maybe a couple of times a year. Sometimes it lasts for a week. Mostly it lasts just for a day. Get a lot of rain. But we do get enough cold hours because we do hover around the temperatures that the tulips and the daffodils and the hyacinths require. So they do perennialize in our area. So that is the mid and the late tulips that are going to trial out. Well, we shall see how they do. So the other thing I'm going to try as a bulb that I got from my wholesale order is the Purple Sensation Alliums. And that is thanks to Marie over at Florists on Farms, because I had mentioned to her that I was looking for more flowers that would bloom around Mother's Day, because I wanted more than what I had because I have very little. I've got the red rhododendron that has good vase life that I can use, bluebells, kale flowers, and not a whole lot else. But I do sell a lot of bouquets at Mother's Day, and that is basically the staple of every bouquet. It would be nice to have something else in there, which is also why I had decided to order the, let me just swing back up here. I'm hoping the Camasia Blue Melody will be blooming then. I don't know if it will be. That's a trial and error in my area. And was there anything else here that I've talked about that I was hoping to be blooming at that time? I know the Campanula won't, because I do have a native Campanula, which, and I'm talking about the Champion Rose. I do have a native Campanula that pops up in my garden, and it's not at that time. But anyway, Purple Sensation blooms for her for Mother's Day. And while she's not on Vancouver Island, she's on the mainland, but she's in the same Zone 8B that I'm in. And she gets not the same weather pattern, because the weather pattern of rain that I get on this part of Vancouver Island that I'm on in Campbell River versus the weather pattern that she gets on the mainland isn't the same. It's sort of right where it can change, because it kind of changes just south of us. But oftentimes that means the southern rain pattern is a little bit north and the northern rain pattern is a little bit south. So there's a lot of crossover. So her weather is very similar to me. But sometimes when we get rain, she doesn't, and sometimes when she gets rain, we don't. So we're both in a wet climate, though. Anyway, so that's why I'm going to trial out the Purple Sensation Alliums. I'm hoping I will have those for Mother's Day. We shall see. So then, that's it for what I ordered from the wholesaler for my order that's coming in another month or a little less, maybe. But there's the spring catalog for the wholesaler came out last week, which is another reason why I've been waiting to do this video until now, because I wanted to see their spring catalog for what you order this fall that they then deliver in the spring. Now, I'm not placing a spring order with them, but I'm going to go down to my local Campbell River Garden Center and give my order to the garden center, because I don't want to order enough of all of the things that I want. I don't want the quantities of each one that I would need to do for the wholesale order. Some of these are for experiments, so I may only want one, maybe two. And if I give it to them, they buy from Van Noort as well. They can tag on my order with their order so that their order gets bigger. I'm not asking for wholesale prices for them. I would be paying retail, but I just want to guarantee that they bring it in. If I'm only going to be buying one or possibly two, it's wrong of me to expect them to give me a wholesale price. That's a retail price, and I'm fine with that for my experiments. So the first thing I'm going to experiment with is a dahlia called, what's it called? Viking, and it's a red ball dahlia. And I always want to trial a ball dahlia, and I always want to trial a dinner plate. So I went through the catalog and I went of the ball dahlias that they are carrying, which is the one that I want to experiment with this year. I decided that out of all the colors, because most of the other colors are very similar to colors that I grow, but I don't grow a red ball dahlia, so I'm going to try the Viking. Now, it's a 3-inch ball. I prefer a 4-inch ball because I tend to harvest them before they're full size, so they have better vase life. Excuse me, but I don't have red, and I have red, but flowers, deep red flowers, like for instance, Spartacus. This is Spartacus. Well, actually, Spartacus looks almost the exact same color as Viking. If I'm looking at the picture here, let me put this here. Let me put this here beside my head, and then you'll have Viking up over here. They look the same color, and I love this color. So maybe I will be very happy with Viking. Although I tend to sell all the ball dahlias in pop cans and not put them in my bouquets. So it will be up to whether or not my customers like them. So that's the ball dahlia I'm going to trial out. And then for dinner plates, I love AC Ben, which is an orange sort of tangerine color one that I grow. And I always grow a row of that, which means I grow around 10 of them. And I do love the color, and I love the way it looks. The biggest problem I have with them is they're great tuber producers. They're not the best in the heat of the summer, but they're great tuber producers, but they're not that prolific either. So I thought Hamari Gold has a very similar color to AC Ben based on its picture. It's a 10-inch bloom, so it's about the same size. It's a dinner plate. And I thought, well, I'm going to trial that out, because if it's a more prolific bloom than AC Ben, that's a +1 for it and a minus for AC Ben. But if it's a poor tuber producer, AC Ben's is a really, really good tuber producer. But anyway, I'm going to trial Hamari Gold. I'm looking forward to seeing how that does in my dahlia beds. And I've decided I'm also going to trial out Lady Darlene, which is a yellow one with red edges. And I think that could easily, for instance, I grow Wanda's Capella, which is this one. And of course, as you know, I grow Spartacus, which is one of my favorite dahlias. They don't make a good pairing together, but if Lady Darlene was here as the third one and you've got the red and the yellow, that could tie these two colors in quite nicely. It's another, how big is this one? 8-inch. It's an 8-inch bloom, so it's a little bit smaller. I think these are both bigger than that. But even if it doesn't work with those, I'm almost positive it would work really nice with with tartan, because of the two-tone effect in tartan. I think Lady Darlene with tartan would look fantastic. And I also think it would look really good with Labyrinth, which is another one of my staples, because the edging on the Lady Darlene really ties in with the colors of Labyrinth. So that's one that I'm really looking forward to. And it could also look really good with my 9-bark branches. I don't know. Although at that time of year, I'm pretty much only using laurel branches. So I'm going to try, oops, sorry, spat out of my mouth. Sorry about that if you saw that. I'm going to trial out those 2 dinner plates because they are ones that I think might be a good addition to my garden, to my flower beds. If they're not, that's fine. I will know. There's lots of dahlias, dinner plate dahlias that I have trialed out over the years that I never grew past the first year because I didn't like them for one reason or another. And that's fine too, because then I just sell the tubers and I'm not out anything. And if you're enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up. The like really helps out my channel. The like really helps out my channel. Now, back to the video. We're going to move on to gladiolas. Now, if you've been following me, you know that last year I trialed for the first time, what's it called? It's a really dark red glad that I'm forgetting the name of, right? Espresso glad. Fell in love with it. It was the first glad that I've trialed ever. Absolutely fell in love with it. This year I took the plunge and trialed out evergreen, which was completely different from it. Fell in love with that. So I'm going to trial out another gladiola. And this again was suggested. It's not, this particular one wasn't suggested to me by one of you, but one of you suggested one that had a similar look that my wholesaler / Campbell River Garden Center doesn't carry. And the one I'm going to trial is Blue Tropic because that's quite different from the 2 that I'm already doing. And then I may also trial Starstruck, and I decided on that after I had decided to trial out the, what was it called again? Lady Darlene dinner plate dahlia, because I kind of thought those 2 would look really good together in a bouquet because they have similar colors but opposite. So the Lady Darlene dinner plate dahlia has mostly the yellow with a little bit of the red or pink. And the Starstruck gladiola has more of the reddy pink and far less of the yellow. But I thought, don't they look good together? And it's quite different from the other 3 now that I will have in the garden. So I'm going to also trial that one out. And oh, now I just shut down my technical problems with my computer. I just shut down my folder. Hang on. Won't take me long to open that up. So after that, I am humming and hawing on this, but I think I will trial it because there's only one in a package. And that is the Lily Asiatic Double Elodie. I'm really nervous about trying lilies just because of their toxicity. Then I remind myself I put foxgloves in bouquets and they're toxic. And by the way, I always thought foxgloves were native to where I live, but they're not. They're an invasive species. Anyway, so I'm thinking I might try the Elodie as well as the Easy Spot, which is this one. And the reason I'm thinking I will trial them is because they have another one that's white that I'm not going to trial. But both of these are pollen-free and fragrance-free, which means they're allergy-free. And I can potentially market them that way on my bouquets just by putting a little sign in the flower wagon. If I put them in bouquets, I'm only going to buy 1 bulb of each. Really nervous about it. We do have golden retrievers, and golden retrievers put everything in their mouths. But we have other things on the property that are toxic to golden retrievers. We have the foxgloves, we have rhododendron. There's probably a few other things. So it's like, they're more toxic to cats. They'll kill cats, the lilies, but people who have cats would know that. And anyway, I can put a sign out for that. It would be a sign out that would be there for a very, very short time. And those are days that I may have to put out, absolutely put out more than 1 bouquet, some without the lilies in them. But again, I'm only buying 1 bulb of each. So it'll be a really, really small test in that regard to see if they sell. And then if they do, I can always buy more the following year. But I think I will order just 1 of each. So you can tell by my voice, I'm not that comfortable ordering it, but we shall see. The other thing I'm going to ask them if they can get in, and this would not be from the wholesaler, but I would really like to grow, what's this called? This is a geum, and it's totally tangerine because it's the earliest blooming geum, and it should be blooming for me for Mother's Day as well. But I can only find one place that I can order it from, which is a place called Phoenix Perennials, which is in Richmond on the Lower Mainland. Just where Vancouver is you just cross the Fraser River to Richmond, which is which is where the airport is. It's an island, and quite a large island in the Fraser River, right by the mouth of it. But they don't sell it until spring, and they don't sell it till spring. And then for me to have it shipped out to me, that would be expensive. It's $24 per root. And then I'd have to pay for shipping. That's an expensive root. And I wouldn't get anything out of it this year or next year, because by the time they ship out the root, it's going to be already past its blooming period, because where I live, things that can get frost damage don't usually get shipped out until May, to avoid the possibility of it getting frost damage en route with shipping companies. Because, for instance, where I live, the last frost date is in the last week of April, but it could be shipping to other places in BC where the last frost date is middle of May, and they're not going to have more than one shipping date, so everything probably ships out middle of May. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm not, that's paying a lot of money for a plant that I'm not even going to be able to get into the ground until after its blooming period. Doesn't really appeal to me. So I'm going to see if my garden center, Campbell River Garden Center, can bring it in. And if they can bring one in for me, I will probably trial that out as well. Now I'm going to go over the ones that I was thinking of trialing from Johnny's, because those are all the ones I'm definitely trialing. In fact, one of them I'm not, unless my garden center can get it in. So the ones that I had been thinking of trialing was Bells of Ireland. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to, because again, I've got the evergreen gladiolas that I'm growing, which have that same beautiful color to them, so they kind of can replace that color of the Bells of Ireland. I had wanted to trial out a celosia, and I had thought I would try Kramer's Burgundy, because again, it's a color that I like, and if you're going to trial something, might as well trial it out in a color that you know that you're going to like. I had thought I'd trial out Chocolate Cosmos, which have a chocolate scent, but I've decided not to trial that. Dara, and by the way, the Chocolate Cosmos would have come from my wholesaler, and then via my Campbell River Garden Center, not through Johnny's. So that one is kind of misplaced in this list. I had thought I'd trial Dara from Johnny's, but I'm not going to do that. What are we called here? The Delphinium Magic Fountain Sky Blue, which is a poisonous one, so I've decided not to trial that one. I was going to try Calendula Orange Flash, but I've decided not to. Larkspur Light Pink, I've decided not to. Lupin Chatelaine, I've decided not to. Again, it's a poisonous plant. And those are the ones that I have decided not to trial for 2026, but that doesn't mean they're not going to show up in my 2027 trials. Now, that is literally all the ones that that's quite a few that I'm trialing in my small cut flower beds in my urban flower farm. The dahlias, where dahlias go in, other dahlias must come out. The glads, they grow so close together that it should be pretty easy to find spots for the new ones that I'm trialing. The tulips, and the hyacinths, well, I sell those in 1 gallon pots, so they don't take up any room at all, because once their season is finished, those pots can come out of all the flower beds, any that are left over. And the snapdragons, well, I'm buying 2 to replace 2 colors that I already had in different series, so that's the same space. The 9-bark's going up on my deck. And the Camisea Blue Melody is mostly going to go, well, not mostly, but it's going to go where some Astilbes are now. So they all sort of have their places. It's kind of like, women's closets. You put new clothes in, you have to take some out. I do that all the time. But if you want to hear how the flower experiments went for me for 2025, because I had a lot of successes with the experiments that I did this year. I'm really happy with a lot of the experiments that I did, and some were just absolute failures, and you'll find out why. But this is the link to that up here, and it's worth checking out if you haven't watched it again, because I go over the new to me this year flowers and why some of them worked well for me and why some of them were just failures. And other than that, I will see you guys all next week. Bye.